Thanks for listening to the Clive Barker Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to the imagination of Clive Barker. Coming up on episode 424, Jose and Ryan take a deep dive into the Boom Studios Hellraiser comics, starting with issues 1 through 4. Plus, we go into some Hellraiser and Clive Barker convention news. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art, but Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. Click the side banner and follow the link to the Etsy shop where the artwork is returned from the local galleries. New stuff in there. I just got my second one, Snailbait. Well, welcome. This is episode number 424 of the Clive Barker Podcast. Good afternoon, Jose. How's it going?
Hey, Ryan. Doing good. It's Saturday morning, and we're just usually getting connected here, and we were just having a little chat before we started recording.
Yeah.
And I'm stoked. I've been reading some new, not new, but I've been reading some of those Boom comic books, and we've got some good stuff to add straight from the Reef.
Yeah, and it's funny. We were just talking about how. So we're going to be starting from issue number 1 of the Boom Hellraiser series, and we were just talking about how this is actually kind of an old project that to us it's like this new thing that we were going to get around to at some point, right? And it's been 12 years since these things came out.
I know, 2011.
Yeah, and I always think of them as those new comics. The new Hellraiser comics, you know, they just came out, and it's been 12 years now. So we're gonna get to those, but like you said, we do have some news from the Reef, and by the way, the Reef actually comes into play in the Hellraiser comics later on. We'll get to that too.
It does. I like how they brought little callbacks to Clive Barker stuff into the Boom Studios comic books.
I do too. So first off, in the news, Pete Atkins has a short story that's previously unpublished or new or both in an anthology called Darkness Beckons that you can pre-order on Amazon, and we've got a link there to the Amazon where you can pre-order it.
That's right. So this anthology was edited by Mark Morris. Pete Atkins' story in this anthology is called He Wasn't There Again Today by Peter Atkins. And apparently this is the 4th volume in the non-themed horror series of entirely original stories.
Cool.
It has 19 other stories, 16 of which have been commissioned from some of the top names in the genre. And some of them were selected from hundreds of stories sent to Flame Tree during a 2-week open submission window.
Oh.
So I'm looking forward to this one. You can get it as Kindle, hardcover, or paperback.
Nice. Yeah, people should check that out. Pete Atkins is a great writer and a great friend to our podcast. That's awesome. And also, this is also news that Pete Atkins kind of alerted everybody to. The Hellraiser, the Quartet of Torment, right? The upcoming 4K Blu-ray set of Hellraiser movies that includes Hellraiser 1 through 4, has a trailer. And
it was a really good trailer.
It is a really good trailer, and Pete was talking about what a great trailer it is and sharing it with everybody, and so we've got a link to that so you can go watch it on the show from our show notes. And I watched it too. It was amazing. It's so seamless, and it looks really cool. It's the music. I wasn't sure if I recognized. Does that music come from any one of those movies? I didn't seem to recognize it.
I would have to try to find that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I did hear some music that didn't seem like it was from the movies, but it was a really well cut trailer. Mm-hmm. It has images of like from the 1st to the 4th. Yeah. And Arrow Video always comes through, and the trailer is in 4K, so you can see you can get a glimpse of what it's going to look like on your 4K TV. It really looks amazing.
Yeah, great. So that's the reason why I want to get it, is to have those movies in 4K, and you know, they're advertising it like it's, you know, Pete Atkins is trying to caution everybody, hey, don't get this because you think it's going to have a mythical director's cut of the of Hellraiser Bloodline, because there is no such thing. And so it will have some restored footage, but, a lot of what people are hoping for doesn't exist, as far as all the stuff with the clowns and everything.
Well, still, if it's what I think it is, then it's going to be pretty good to watch that work print for Hellraiser Bloodline, because it does have some stuff in the future segment that we've never seen before.
Right. But I think that what people really, really want, to have a completely recut director's cut with footage that was never, finished, that, you can't do that.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm super excited just to have a big box set that included those, because I think when they made the Scarlet box, there were rights issues that prevented them from having Hellraiser Bloodline in the box set with that set, and also that wasn't in 4K. So I've already pre-ordered this a while back, and I'm excited for this one to come in.
So is this going to be region free?
Yeah, because
or is it going to be the British region?
4K Blu-rays don't have region coding on them.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So but I don't know that every movie in there is 4K. I'm not 100% on that.
Well, they should be, right? They say new hellish 4K restorations.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But that's true. But at the same time, Hellraiser 3 was edited on VHS. So, how high of a resolution can they? I mean, I other than scanning it in 4K, but I don't know.
Well, Arrow says brand new 4K restorations of all 4 films from the original camera negatives by Arrow Films.
Okay, that's it then.
And they talk about Disc 3 Hellraiser Hell on Earth with alternative unrated version. Brand new commentary track featuring Stephen Jones and Kim Newman. So that's going to be interesting, because Stephen Jones was a publicist for Hellraiser for a long time. Archival audio commentary with screenwriter Peter Atkins, theatrical cut only. And then we got the archival audio commentary with director Anthony Hickox and actor Doug Bradley, unrated version only. And previously unseen extended EPK featuring interviews with Clive Barker and Doug Bradley, effects dailies, Time with Terry, where they will have archival interviews with actor Paula Marshall. The Razing Hell on Earth archival interview with Anthony Hickox. I think this was on a Laserdisc, right? You got the Under the Skin featurettes that were done for that Anchor Bay release many years ago. Theatrical trailer and image gallery. And then the Bloodline will have that newly uncovered work print version of the film, providing a fascinating insight into how it changed during post-productions.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting stuff. The whole list of features is going to be in the Arrow website that we'll link you guys to.
So Neil Snowden replied, this is a guy from Arrow. He said, Peter Atkins, the trailer was edited by Jack Whiting here at Arrow. I'm not sure he's on Facebook. I don't seem to be able to tag him. Thrilled that you like it so much. I've sent him a screenshot of this post in the meantime. And then I replied, why didn't Arrow use my idea and call it the Scarletist box? And I put a little screenshot of our episode 414 cover.
Yes,
the Scarletist box. I'm kind of hoping he'll see that, because since somebody at Arrow was replying, I wanted them to see my idea.
The Scarletist box.
Yeah,
that was a funny moment. Yeah, I like it.
So I'm looking forward to that, though. I can't wait for that one to show up. But that being said, because I keep getting all my releases autographed, so I just keep on piling up more and more copies of these movies.
Well, maybe you can get some of those signed at Days of the Dead in Chicago in 2024.
Yeah, so we might as well talk about that now. Clive Barker is going to be at Days of the Dead in Chicago in March. Is it 22nd?
22nd through the 24th.
Yeah.
That's right. At the Crown Plaza Chicago O'Hare Hotel.
Yeah. This is a really early announcement for that. So, when you go there and look at who else is going to be there, they haven't announced too many people yet.
Yeah, so I think Ian sent this to me. So thanks, Ian, for sending us the news. The tickets are already for sale for 2024, March. So if you want to get a cheap hotel room, this is your chance to start planning ahead. That's how he got to know about this, and I immediately posted it on our Hellraiser page and the podcast page as well.
I'm really considering going, especially when I'm seeing a lot of our friends talking about that they're going to go and getting to meet them in person. That would be pretty neat. So, I think that I'm seriously considering it. So
I would love to plan something as well. Let's keep this. Let's put a pin on this, as they say, and let's see if we could both go there in March. That would be terrific.
For you, you're in the Midwest, so you're not super far away.
That's true. Yeah, you're much further away than I am. It's funny that Days of the Dead actually misspelled Scarlet Gospels as the Scarlet Gospels. You guys got to fix that there. And Weaver World. Oh my God, Weaver World. No. You guys got to fix that. Days of the Dead. That doesn't look good.
This is on the Facebook
Clive Barker,
post,
who wrote Weaver World. It is. Yes. Uh-oh. Someone needs to proof this.
All right.
It's on the Days of the Dead post on their Facebook page. It happens, I mean, hey, whatever. Yeah. We know what they mean. Scarlet Gospels and Weave World. You just got to fix that.
Yeah. So that's intriguing. I've been to Chicago once, and Chicago hot dogs are awesome. So,
nice.
Yeah.
I have not been to Chicago, so I would love to go there and check it out.
I got to ride on the giant Ferris wheel on the pier and eat a Chicago hot dog. And I got a deep dish pizza, which was so huge that I could only eat one piece, and I didn't have a refrigerator in my hotel, so I had to throw the whole rest of the pizza away.
What a shame.
Yeah.
I think Sarah did an internship at the Argonne National Lab there when she was doing her undergrad, I think. I'm not sure. So she said she loved Chicago, so I've never been there, but I would love to go there and hang out with all you fine people.
Yeah. Yeah. So
let's see if we can make it happen.
Yeah. If you're planning on going, let us know. If you think we should go, let us know. And our last little bit of news, The Torturer, which we've talked about quite a bit. The film based on the short film based on the short story by Paul Kane, who is a Hellraiser expert who's written books about Hellraiser. So that and the movie is made by our friends at Little Spark Films. The Torturer is now streaming on Troma Now. So now it's on Troma Now, starting tomorrow, which is today as you're listening to this, October 1st.
Yeah, I think it's still like $5 a month or something for Troma Now. So I did have it for a while. I don't have it anymore, but I might just get back on it. To watch more Troma films. And
that's in addition to it already being on Amazon Prime and Tubi and Plex.
Yeah, all those platforms.
I almost said that in Bentley Widget's voice because I do that commercial for them with Bentley.
We got to have it on VHS one day at the Jericho Squad headquarters. Someone should do a Torture in VHS.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to Joe and see, hey, Joe, have you ever considered putting this on a VHS? That would be cool.
I think, I thought that they did talk about doing that. Maybe that was with a different movie. I can't remember.
So that's, The Torture. If you want to watch that and other Troma films, you can go to Troma Now and also watch that thing that Joe Manco is connected to, which is that Gringo Fantastico show that's on Troma Now. Yeah. You can also check that.
And you're saying to go to the service that's called Troma Now, not to go to Troma right now.
If you want to go to the Troma headquarters and knock on the door, you can. I don't know where that is. It's Tromaville, I hear. I keep hearing greetings from Tromaville, so I don't know where Tromaville is, but I'm guessing it's Southern California.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe. I don't know.
So, all of that being said, we should move into our main topic for today, which is the Boom Comics version of Hellraiser, right? So, the very first issue came out in March 2011, and it was written by Clive Barker with Christopher Monfette. So, they gave Clive Barker top billing and Christopher Monfette kind of second, but it was Christopher Monfette writing and Clive Barker came up with cool ideas. It's kind of how I remember these being written when we were talking to them at the time.
Sure. So the first story is called, so they did arcs, right? They did story arcs. So they started with the number 1 and yeah, sure, it goes to number 20, but then they also started like splitting them up into like The Road Below, The Pursuit of Flesh.
And after a while, they started renumbering the whole series, instead of
they made little mini-series, right? Like, The Road Below, 1 of 4.
Yeah.
So
this is Pursuit of the Flesh, Part 1. It opens up in a cornfield where this guy has got some poor lady like trapped in a cell in his barn, I guess.
Yeah, it opens in Nebraska, where this guy, and this reminded me, you remember the Epic Comics number 1 with there's one guy also in a farm, also about to torture a woman, and he also has the box and some of the Cenobites. Do you remember that on the first story of Hellraiser?
Well, no, I kind of forgot that, but Nate, that's an interesting callback then, huh?
Yeah, from the Epic Comics from, I don't know, 1990 something? 89,
yeah, I think it was 89.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting that they opened the new series with kind of a callback to the first series of Hellraiser comics.
That is cool.
But there's a man called Samuel, right? Samuel, he is a guy who has a woman. She's trapped in a cell, like you said, and she's under surveillance, and he has a lament configuration in the cell with her. So he's trying to get her to solve the box and see what happens.
And in this series, it seems like there are people who are kind of set up to deliver these puzzle boxes because the Cenobites kind of have them over a barrel or have something on them that force them to do stuff for them, be their agents in the world.
Yeah, so they're like these puzzle guardians, but I think most of them, they don't really want to do it, but they'll, like you said, there's something that Cenobites hold over them.
Yeah.
Samuel just seems to really be into this, though. I mean, this
does.
Guy, the woman solves the box, she gets chained, the Cenobites appear, the Hell Priest and the Deep Throat. And so...
and motivational-wise, what's interesting here is that Pinhead is kind of like, you know what? We do this I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, we do this all the time. I'm kind of sick of this. And he just rips her to shreds. He doesn't take any time with it at all. He's like, this is all the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, he's kind of, growing a little weary of this. But it's nice that we get to see some new stuff as well as some callbacks to classic stuff from Hellraiser, like the Labyrinth. We do see the Labyrinth when they are done ripping the body of the woman. We see these giant gargoyles spewing blood onto the walls of the labyrinth, like it's the blood of the victims of the damned, right?
Right, feeding, like it's feeding hell. And one thing the Hellraiser comics have always kind of clamped onto this idea of that started with Hellraiser 2 of the Labyrinth and Leviathan. And the movies just really dropped the ball with that. Leviathan and Labyrinth never came back.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, not until
a lot more.
Not until the Hulu movie, right? Yeah.
Yes. Well, maybe some people argue that Inferno, that when Joseph Thorne opens the door at the end of the movie, that he stares into this giant void, this giant wall. That could be like he's stuck in his own personal hell in the labyrinth, but we don't really see the labyrinth. So that's more wishful thinking.
Yeah.
But so, like you said, he kills that woman, but he doesn't take any pleasure in it. And then he tries to summon Leviathan. He goes to this place in hell, right, where he plays an organ.
Yeah.
An organ where instead of pipes you have flayed bodies that scream out as he plays the organ, and
because they're jammed onto the end of the pipes.
He wants to communicate with Leviathan. He says he wants to revert back to being human. He's done with being the Hell Priest, and he yearns for the salvation of heaven.
They're kind of like on the Muppet Show, Marvin Suggs and the Muppaphone
and his Muppaphone.
Yeah, we've been rewatching all the Muppet Show.
Tuning up.
Yeah. Ow. We just watched an episode where where Kermit was sitting there interviewing Marvin Suggs and the Muppaphones. And he's like, so everyone wants to know, does it hurt? And they're like, is he standing behind us?
And now, Lady of Spain.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I miss that. I used to watch that on TV all the time. But yeah, so it looks like I don't understand how Pinhead thinks that he can achieve redemption, but he yearns for the salvation of heaven. So he wants to go back to being human, go back into the world to see if he can do like good stuff now. Yeah. I don't know if it works that way. I'm a little confused.
Well, and then this guy that he's talking to, like the main one of these organ people, I guess, is like somebody who tried to do this and failed. And that guy is kind of hoping like, hey, I wish you would do this because you're going to fail and you're going to take my place.
But then he says that also there needs to be a replacement because if he wants to retire, then he needs to name a replacement. And he says, oh, I got just the person.
Is that the female?
No, it's going to be Kirsty. I mean, we should probably say spoilers here.
Yeah, that's foreshadowing. Well, I don't know about spoilers. I mean, I'm assuming that if anybody that's listening to this has read these comics, if you please read the comics. They've been even collected since this, came out. So
this is where Pinhead, or the Hell Priest, he doesn't like being called Pinhead. He's going to set a plan in motion with Samuel, and he tells him. Another moment here that I'm a little confused by, the mythology of Hellraiser that we're used to from the movies kind of drifts away for the mythology in the comics. Yeah. In the sense that Pinhead apparently can just come over and communicate with Samuel whenever he needs to, and he finds him in a field as Samuel is bearing the what's remaining of the flayed woman's body, and he says, well, I've got a plan for you, and there is much blood to spill. So
maybe it's because he cut that puzzle box into the cornfield. Is that why he can come in there?
Oh, that's true. Because at the end of the first comic book issue, we see that the place where the farmer is burying the woman's body is in the middle of a wheat field or something. Yeah. And the wheat field has like kind of a crop circle thing, but it's not a crop circle. It's the face of the lament configuration.
Yeah, I'm still on the, I think aren't we still on the first issue?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking about it. Well, and there's also interesting things I remember thinking when this series came out, because there's this big splash page that says a fascinating choice. We are agreed. Now go and make it gospel. And there's little hints of Harry D'Amour in this first issue. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I went to Mark Miller and I said, hey, is this all like leading up to telling us what's going to happen in the Scarlet Gospels? And Mark said, no, this is going to be a totally like parallel story, and it's not the same. Because he said the comics are going to be their own universe, totally separate from the book, of the Scarlet. Because at that time, everybody was desperate for the Scarlet Gospels, and had been, waiting for that for over a decade, and.
That's right. Yeah, we've been hearing about the last Requiem that was going to come out. Yeah. But so the story cuts to Kirsty Cotton, and she is with a boyfriend, right? Edgar. He's about he's about to propose to her.
And they made Kirsty a painter, which is kind of bleeding into the real life of the actress.
She's apparently still living in the Cotton household, right? Yeah. And she's painting a portrait of Pinhead, and there's a picture in the background of her and Tiffany at the Chouinard Institute. So there's a lot of callbacks there.
Well, what's interesting, though, is that she's in the Cotton household in England, but then she's in America through the rest of the comics.
That's something that's going to come up with the Harrowers, because this is basically going to be about the Harrowers. We're going to see them introduced in the next scene.
And this is the Harrowers of this series, not the ones from the Epic. Yeah, they're a whole different new generation of Harrowers.
That's one thing I think I brought up back when these comics were coming out. I was like, we hardly get any sort of explanation as to how these people can travel all around the world. Yeah. Who's paying for this? Who's bankrolling this? Right. Because it seems like that was never explained. I mean, not that it has to be explained. I mean, it is a comic book story, but at the same time, it would have been nice to understand how they have this operation working. I would have loved to have found out more. But one thing I realized when we started rereading these comic book stories was how much I had forgotten about them.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I was getting still a little surprised by what I was reading in these comimies.
There are some things, though, that you can predict. Like, you see that she's got this fiance dude that's kind of a milquetoast that's completely...
And he just proposed to her.
He just proposed. He's completely unaware of her past with the puzzle box and all of and hell and everything. You know he's going to get it.
Well, I don't know if he's completely unaware. I mean, she does mention something about the stuff that she has to deal with, and she is painting a painting of Pinhead, and he is talking about the Dream Sea in a lecture a few issues ahead. Yeah. So I think he knows a little bit, but maybe she's been more private, or maybe she hasn't really opened everything. But yeah, it seems like this guy is coming out to be a character that's possibly doomed. We will get into that.
Well, actually, now I'm seeing this cotton house it's not in England, it's in America, right? It's got an American mailbox on it, and it's got the guy delivering the letter is driving on the left side of his car. That's
one of those things that I don't want to be mean about the comics, but the comics did take some very creative liberties with some things. I mean, that would not gel with the actual story of the house. The house was obviously in England. In the movie, Larry and Julia moved to England, so that house should be in England.
Yes.
They did some mistakes throughout the comic, and I think I did mention one back when I was reading the comic books at the time. Like, there's a panel where Pinhead is giving Kirsty the box, and whoever made that panel, they clearly went to a website to find, when they brought out that 4-disc thing that had it came in a little box made out of paper, and there were two little indents where you could pull out the lid.
It was the DVD box set of the Hellraiser one, the Anchor Bay.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't the Anchor Bay one. It was a different one, because the Anchor Bay didn't have those indents in the face. But there was one that did have 2 indents where you could put your fingers and pull out the lid. And they used a photocopy of that image in the panel. And I remember putting a picture and saying, oh, my God, do you remember when Pinhead offered Kirsty a Blu-ray box of Hellraiser? And I think I remember Mark Miller putting a laugh emoji react or something, and said, "Oh, dude, that's funny." And I was like, "Yeah." At the same time, the artist should have known better than to just copy this from the Blu-ray box, because those indents are not in the original box. But even though you say that there's a mailbox that looks American and someone's driving on the left side, I think that house should be in England. If they try to put that in America, then I'm a little, disappointed at that. But
and there's always talk about, well, it's not really clear what country they're in. Well, I think it's really clear in the first movie that they moved to England.
Yeah, but then in the second movie, there's the thing with the cops. They look American, and they have a gun, and they shoot a corpse in the Hell House.
But Tony Randall said that it was just because he didn't know any better.
Yeah,
but because he was young, I mean, and didn't. Yeah,
I think we shouldn't look at that too deeply, because one of the things, I don't want to damn this with faint praise, but the comics did skim things a little bit on the surface at some points. Like I said, I mean, you can say the Harrows are just walking around, going to places, going to Paris, going here, going there. And it's like, how are they doing this? Who keeps them funded?
Yeah.
Right? Or why is Kirsty still wearing the same white T-shirt and leather jacket that she had in the movie in this comic book? I mean, it's supposed to have been 25 years, and they still dress her just like she was dressed in the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's just, brand recognition, a little bit of that stuff, like reference pictures that the artist was using, just trying to give us that emotional connection to the actual film. Whether or not that gets in the way of immersion and, trying to update this to 25 years later, that's a different story.
Yeah. So I guess we can finish out issue 1 here really quick, right? So Kirsty's got a picture on the mirror of her and Tiffany, like, smiling in front of the Chenard Institute. When did they take that photo? I don't think they had happy memories there, right?
I know, and it looks almost like a souvenir picture because it's got a little like frame saying Chenard Institute, and like I see that. It reminds me of the last scene of Hellbound, right? Yeah. When they come out and they're kind of happy and they're going out and they hold up the certificate that Homer Simpson had saying, not insane. Remember when Homer went to the insane asylum?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And found Michael Jackson?
Not me. I've got this.
Yeah, exactly. That one.
Yeah.
Deep cut for the Simpsons fans out there.
Right. So, but on a Hellraiser, so then they've got a 16-page preview of Hellraiser masterpieces, which were like collected books of the old Epics comics. But the thing I didn't like about those is they kind of picked and chose which comics they were going to put in there, and they weren't in any kind of order that I could understand. So I didn't. The Hellraiser masterpieces weren't for me.
Right. I already had the comics anyway. So,
yeah, exactly.
It was more of an anthology, a little amuse bouche if you want to get a taste of what the comics were like.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention, and I almost didn't bring this up, but there was, before the first issue came out, a prologue that Boom Comics put out for free.
Issue 0.
And issue 0, right?
Yeah, and I swear to God, I thought I had that, and I can't find it anywhere.
Was it only digital? Because I only found the PDF of it, so I don't know if that ever came out physical.
Maybe that's why.
I know that Boom Studios had that on their website.
That must be the reason.
And I think that was kind of like a proof of concept, right? It was there's a priest, and there's a death row inmate, and he's sitting in the electric chair, and the priest is next to him, and he says hey priest, I'm innocent, I'm just, how is it that I'm innocent and I'm about to be killed, and how is it that you're a man of God and you're about to fry me? And the priest says, well, God knows what you did to those children, so hey, here's a box, try to solve this box and maybe you'll get a chance at salvation. And I think that the inmate, and this is another thing that I always criticize in these stories, right? They touch the box and the box solves itself in like a second.
Yeah.
And then the inmate starts getting like lightning and chains, and he's starting to feel like the Cenobites are digging their hooks into him. And he's like, oh, priest, make it stop. And then the hell priest shows up, and he takes the prisoner, and he says, yes, he was innocent. And then the priest is like, he was innocent? Like, yes, but you gave him the box. And basically he says that yours was the desire to see what would happen. So he takes the priest as well.
Oh, good. I totally, I can't remember that at all, but I must have read it at the time.
But it is kind of a self-contained little story.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to have anything to do with what happens in the first issue of this comic book.
Yeah. I wonder if it's even the same writer, Chris Monfette.
This probably is, yeah. Probably is. Same artist as well.
Yeah.
But I think that was more like a little teaser, right? So, what to expect.
And the artist was Leonardo Manco, right? So we have Chris Monfette and Leonardo Manco for the first issue, and same team, right? For the second, now we're moving into issue 2, that came out in April of 2011.
Right. Yeah. Issue 2 opens with the Harrowers, right? Doing a conference call. We don't know that they're the Harrowers yet, but there's a group of people talking about how, hey, I think this might be a trap. Yeah. And they're talking about they found another possible lament configuration, right?
Right. And so what it was is that guy that was delivering the letter that we talked about in the last issue was a clue about this configuration and where it is.
Opens up with the Harrowers doing a conference call. And so they're looking at some sort of, what are they? They're photos that they're looking through?
Yeah, a bunch of photos that were delivered in that envelope that the guy shoved into Kirsty's mailbox. And so I mentioned this before. I think this issue is the toughest one for me to understand what's going on. There's a lot of dialogue, and the action seems like it's it's really truncated. A lot of stuff crammed into a small amount of pages or panels. So I struggled with this one a little bit, but from what I understand, from what I think, is that all of these pictures are showing the carousel was for sale at like a yard sale. And then this family bought it, and they're going to have to go track down who this family is. And they're looking at them with a magnifying glass, and they can see the address on the house, and they find out that this is only a few hours away from where they are.
So there's the part that I was a little confused about. They say that this is at a yard sale, but then they say, okay, there's a picture of a carousel kind of snow globe or something, like a little carousel toy with maggots and things.
Yeah.
And I don't understand
it's not
who
a
took
snow
the picture.
Globe,
okay. So it's just a toy, right? A carousel toy.
Yeah.
I think I was looking at the magnifying glass.
Yeah.
But so what I don't understand is they say this is at a yard sale, and then they see a street sign, a mailbox on a name on the mailbox of the house behind it. But are these people trying to sell that item, or did they buy that item?
I think those are the people. Those are the people that were trying to sell it, and then they tracked down the person that bought it. That's what I think.
Yeah, but they're looking at the name on the picture on the mailbox, and they go to that family's house that's in the picture. So it's like, wouldn't it make sense that the house in the background was the house that was selling that item, not the house that bought it? Anyway, so I don't want to get too precious on that part, but they look at the number on the door, and they see the name McLaren on the mailbox behind the toy and the yard sale picture, and they know that that's where they got to go to find this. I guess they recognize this as kind of a lament configuration thing.
Yeah, so they're trying to introduce this part of the plot and at the same time introduce us to all of these harrowers, and we only have like 10 pages to do it, and all of the action of them going to this house and retrieving the box and fighting Cenobites. I think it's all just too much for this one issue.
Yeah, I think, first of all, how do they know that is a lament configuration? Because at this point they haven't really explained why are they all. We'll find that
it seems
later
like
in the comics.
But, they've been established as experts, But
what I mean is that you're going to see this in the next few issues. Most of these lament configurations look like children's toys.
Yeah.
But the lament configuration box does not look like a children's toy. So, but then we see that this one is a carousel. My question is, how do the harrowers recognize this as a lament configuration? So that's the thing. Some things seem to drop on the lap of the story, and we don't really get an idea of why this is.
I assumed that they'd heard about this one before, and they've been, they'd always wanted to find it, and they never knew where it was.
Okay.
Because they always talk about them like these are all built by Le Marchand. That every single they were all built by this. So maybe they have a list of all the ones that he built and where they ended up and stuff.
So in this case, they say millipedes and maggots, the subsurface circus, not exactly a subtle gateway to hell. I wonder what rough beast is born from this particular Bethlehem. Yeah. It's kind of a precious line to put in there, but sure. But so they decided to go and see if they can find whoever owns that thing. And immediately Bethany, because Bethany is one of the harrowers, she goes on the internet, and just with the street sign, the door number and the name, she comes up with immediately the address and the names of the family that live there.
Yeah.
Okay. So Annabelle and William McLaren, South Hillcrest, Avalon, just a few hours from here. And so they're going to go check it out.
Well, I think that could be done.
And so they're going to go and see if they can find it. But they also are aware that this might be a trap because they received this hint, and they're like, this is too good to be true. It's too close. We've been to London, Romania, Marrakesh, La Plata. And again, I'm going to say, how do you guys travel to all these places? And he says, when has Le Marchand's devices ever been this close to home? So but they're going to go anyway.
One of them's a doctor. Maybe he pays for all of them.
Could be. One's a doctor, one's a former priest. Yeah. Bethany's a former escort, and then we got Kirsty.
My favorite part here is that, and also Kirsty's got a letter from Harry D'Amour, HD, right? So they don't come out. They don't come right out and say it, but and he talks about the Reef. He says it took some digging through the archives, but the reef runs deep. Here are the runes and symbology of the solutent, a ritual not of protection but of vulnerability. Take it and make the blackness bleed. So, sincerely, HD. So he's given them kind of a spell to make it so you can hurt the Cenobites, is the way I took it.
Yeah, or destroy the artifacts, because it looks like the Harrowers in this one, what they do is they destroy lament configurations.
Yeah.
And they're getting close to the last one, which is going to be the one that we recognize from the movie.
Yeah.
So they got that ritual. They come to the house where the family is. And this is the part that's really weird. So they break into the house, and they kidnap the family, and they tie them down. And Kirsty is telling them that don't say anything, don't make noise, or I'll shoot your kid. I'll shoot your kid. It's like,
yeah, why?
Kirsty, what are you doing?
Why does she? And then she says, "Play along with me, buddy. Okay, everything's going to be just fine. I promise. One of your toys is very dangerous."
Yeah, that doesn't track with what you just said.
Yeah, I don't get it.
She's saying that to the kid right in front of the mother. So are you going to shoot the kid? Or are you pretending to shoot the kid?
She could. Right? She should have just told them, "Hey, why don't you guys all go outside and hang out in your car?" Why don't they do that?
Right. Well, yeah. But anyway, they do the ritual and they find the toy. They do the ritual and a couple of demons appear, right? But they're not – they don't look like the Cenobites.
No. They seem to be demons from a different hell. I think we learn later on in the series
right.
There's different hells and different puzzle boxes.
This one is like it looks like a giant weird bug with a big brain head, and the other one looks like a crystalline kind of snake alien.
Yeah. Or is it one guy with a head on each end? I couldn't figure that out.
Oh, there's two of them. Yeah, there's two. But
how do you know?
And the one, well, because they destroy both of them, right? There's the guy with the big head, and then the other guy shatters.
Oh, I thought, cause I can't hardly make anything out in this art.
It is a little complicated, yeah.
I thought it was one Cenobite with like a head on each end because he's like a millipede,
like a cat dog.
I don't know what that is, but
that's a cartoon.
Okay,
it was a cartoon where there was a cat head, and then on the other end the dog head.
Yeah, I guess, sure. But yeah, that's what I thought.
I saw it as two of them.
Yeah, that maybe I'm wrong then.
You may be right, or I may be wrong. But it does look like one is more crystalline and the other is more a bug-like cerebral kind of thing.
Yeah.
In any case, the ritual does allow the Cenobites to become vulnerable, right? So chains start flying and they kind of, shoot at them. And they're able to stab the monster in the eye with a dagger. And
I guess is that what happens? And then,
isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
You got the comic in front of you, right?
I know, I do. I have a really hard time understanding the action in this. And then when the family got killed, I couldn't figure out at first. Like, is that the family or is that the Harrowers that got killed?
No, I think what happens here is, so there's the big bug one and the big crystalline one. So they stab the big bug one in the eye, and then the other one, the crystalline, gets smashed with a special, what do you call that, tuning fork? Oh. A tuning fork that Kirsty makes the ding, and he kind of starts breaking pieces off of him. And then just before they disappear, they take the family. So they take the family, right? The family is killed.
I didn't realize that at all because you don't really see them hurt the family. You just see the aftermath.
Yeah, when they break the little horse from the carousel, and so basically they killed. So every time that a lament configuration is destroyed, the Cenobites attached to that lament configuration are killed or destroyed as well. That's what we hear Pinhead and the female Cenobite talk about in the first issue, I believe. Yeah. And and so after they destroy the carousel and they escape the house where the family got murdered by the Cenobites during the ritual, we cut to the female Cenobite telling Pinhead, it was among the final devices, the carousel. Ours is now the last. So the stakes are high, right?
Yeah. And Pinhead is like acting like, yep, this is what I wanted to happen. He's sort of orchestrated this.
Yeah.
And Kirsty is sad and taking a shower because she didn't expect this family to get killed. She thought she was going to rescue them.
She goes home, right? Kirsty goes home, and she places the broken carousel along with the other broken lament configurations. So we see in her shelf, one of them was a doll, one of them was a ballerina, and we're going to get callbacks to these in the next few issues. Yeah. One was a mask, one was like an astrolabe or something, and then the carousel.
Yeah, and
also a snow globe with a tree. So then we cut to Edgar, right? Kirsty's boyfriend. He's going through the airport and he's going through security, and we see that he's being followed by the farmer from the first issue, Edgar.
Yeah.
No, not Edgar. Samuel.
Right.
Samuel is following Edgar, and he's going through security, and we see Samuel has the Hellraiser box inside his suitcase as he goes through security. So he's tracking Edgar. He knows that Edgar is going to be the way to get to Kirsty.
Could have just gone straight to Kirsty. I don't see why they needed to involve him, but whatever.
Yeah. The third issue opens with kind of an interesting choice because it shows Pinhead delivering a sermon, right? Yeah. Inside a giant chapel that seems to be made out of the spine and thorax of a giant skeleton.
Yeah, so it kind of harkens back to the image. I mean, not image, the Epic Comics. Stuff like that would happen, which was pretty cool. Except you'd see
he would address
like
a multitude of
hordes of them instead of just two. And where's Butterball?
Yeah, does he show up in the next few issues? I guess we'll find out.
I can't remember. I don't think. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why. I don't think he does. I can't remember, but. I thought I remembered us talking about this. Why he doesn't show up?
Yeah, so he's basically saying that they're the last ones, apparently, or the box is all that remains, and he reminds them that there was a time before they were trapped in this six-faced toy of Le Marchand, when they lived beneath the sun, and he says that, there's nothing for us but pain. And then it cuts to Edgar doing a lecture about the Dream Sea and the Story Tree.
Yeah, which is kind of more interesting callbacks to Clive Barker.
Yeah, the Story Tree, right?
Yeah. And quiddity. He talks about quiddity also.
Yeah, so it seems like Edgar has gotten involved into this part of the mythology with Kirsty. But he's talking about, I think he's talking about this as if it was more like an artifice, like a literary artifice, right?
Right, yeah, definitely.
He's talking about the origins of myth making and stuff.
Like Joseph Campbell.
Yeah. So the hero, the epic tales of the hero. And he says, basically every story begins with a confession. And then we cut to a confessional, where this is going to be the harrowing of Marcus Ames, who's one of the first harrowers. So this is something that Hellraiser Comics and Boom Studios did for Hellraiser, and they also did for Nightbreed, where the opening issues of these comics kind of introduce us to each one of these characters' backstory.
Yeah.
And Marcus is one of the harrowers. He's the priest, right?
Yeah. And he's giving a confession, and some guy's like, "Hey, I'm confessing that I left this thing for you in your," and it's a snow globe with a little dead tree in it.
Yeah, he says, "Sorry, priest, they made me pass it on." And, it says, "Oh, hell isn't flames, Father, it's frost." And he comes out of the confessional to see what's going on, and he just finds that snow globe in the seat. And then he takes it to the pulpit, right?
Yeah.
And he looks at it, says, "Curious thing." And he kind of flips it, and the snow starts falling, and all of a sudden he sees the snow kind of falls inside the church. Like the snow from the snow globe is an illusion now falling over the statue of Christ and all that. And then he sees a character approaching, and it's another demon, right? It's another Cenobite.
Right, yeah. One that's all based on ice and snow and stuff.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, you got to join us, all these snowflakes are infinite and unique, and hell is what remains after God fled paradise, which is an interesting thing because that is kind of a callback to Clive Barker's History of the Devil, where the devil goes to paradise and then he finds out that God left paradise.
Yeah, that hell is empty. I mean, heaven is empty, right?
Heaven is empty, yeah.
Yeah.
But so this priest manages to escape the demon, and he goes back behind the parish or whatever, what do you call the place behind the altar where the priest goes to.
Oh, yeah.
And he pushes a lever, and the giant statue of Jesus drops on the Cenobite's head. I don't know how or why priests have a trap set up like that in their church. Or
Smush.
why they have a lever that can drop the crucifix onto whoever's in front of the altar. But
it's like in He-Man where there's you turn the throne and then there's a trapdoor in front of the throne in Castle Grayskull.
Right. And everybody always stops on top of the trapdoor. It's crazy.
Yeah, Master Luke, you're standing on.
Yeah, but so the first thing he does after he runs out of the church is he goes into a tattoo parlor to get some protective tattoos, I think. And this is like another one of the things you were talking about. Like, the story does these weird jumps where you're not really sure why this is happening or why they're cutting to this, or like the priest has a giant cross tattooed on his chest, and he goes to a tattoo parlor with another guy. He's giving him tattoos, and he says, "I saw the devil tonight." And then he goes to a bar and gets drunk. I think this is like different periods of his life after that happens. Yeah. Because
it seems
like he's losing his faith, and then he's lost it. He's in a bar, and the barman is telling him, "Hey, it's been weeks, man. Time for a ride on the wagon. Get back on the wagon, because the priest is drunk." And then he ends up finding Kirsty at a bar, and that's how she recruits him for the Harrowers. Yeah. So apparently dropping a huge crucifix on top of a Cenobite will defeat the Cenobite. Okay.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. It's
as long as you never go back to that church.
Right. That's an interesting problem, right? How do you set up all these harrowers to where they were able to escape? Because it's not easy, right? I mean, it's
each one of these only has like 1 or 2 pages in the story to actually tell us who he is, how he got to meet the Cenobites, and how Kirsty got to meet them. Yeah. But in the middle, there's all this stuff that needs more meat on the bones of these stories, right? It's kind of hard for us to piece it together just with 1 or 2 pages of backstory.
But for Kirsty, it took 2 whole movies to explain how she met the Cenobites and was able to escape.
So as Edgar is giving his lecture, they're cutting back to another story for Bethany this time, how Bethany Howard in Seattle, Washington, 2006 got into the Harrowers.
Right, and she's an escort.
Yeah, she's an escort. She's at the home of this rich collector of old artifacts. And, he's like, "Whoa, this is my collection." And it's like, "Oh, this is a music box." And she says, "Oh, it's beautiful. Can I play with it?" And he says, "Well, that was made by, a mid-18th century toy maker called the Marchand. It's very expensive." And, of course, she clicks something on it, and immediately the ballerina starts dancing, and she solved it.
He couldn't solve it. He couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, he says it was broken. He's tried to have it restored. Nothing ever happened. She just clicks on something, and it starts dancing. Yeah. And immediately we see Clockwork Cenobite, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and so
Jeet.
Yeah, and he's not named in the comic, but we know his name because Clive Barker drew him and designed him for this comic, or maybe not for this comic, but he got incorporated into it.
It was called Jite, the Clockwork Cenobite, and that looks exactly just like this one.
Yeah, and we've got links in the show notes to where you can see a picture of him on clivebarker.info and on Clive Barker's Facebook page. That you dug those back up again, from that from that time.
From when Clive posted it on Facebook back in 2011, 2012, I don't know.
But you can also go to near the back cover, like the very last page. It says art from the hands of Clive Barker, and you can see two images of Cenobites from this. One of them says Zine, Z-I-I-N, and the other one is Jite, or Jeet.
Oh, yeah, Zine. That was the other one. Right. Cool. So I got to say something here about this one. The Clockwork Cenobite, I wonder if the new Hellraiser at Hulu, I wonder if they used the idea for Leviathan tech out of this Jite Cenobite, right?
Because yeah, I thought about that too. I was like, oh yeah, right.
Half of his body is built with like brass clockwork pieces.
Yeah, like that loom that they jammed into the bad guy. I forget his name now.
Roland Voight.
There we go, Roland Voight. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that to come out on 4K Blu-ray so I can watch it and put it on my shelf.
So the Cenobite Jite, the Clockwork Cenobite, he's able to take things out of inside your body, right? So he phases into the priest's, not the priest, the millionaire's, the collector's chest and takes out his heart, right?
Yeah.
And then he's trying to do the same to the girl.
Yeah.
And
she says, no.
Yeah, he says, well, he was the guy who wanted to open that, but then for the woman, instead of taking her heart, he just says, you will live, but forever without the sweet song of your child's voice. And he goes into her belly, his arm phases into her belly, and he takes a baby from out her belly because she was pregnant.
That seems so anti-Cenobite. It's like
there's even a story
of all the people who had nothing to do with opening the puzzle box, I think the baby would be number one.
Yeah, that seems like a reverse callback to the story in the epic Marvel's comic book stories where the Cenobite saves a baby from a woman who's killing herself in the bathtub after solving the box. And he says, oh, no, we don't want your baby. You can go back you just follow those stars and go to heaven, baby. In this one, no, the Cenobite takes her baby and fuses it with his clockwork innards.
Yeah.
And she runs away bleeding, and she ends up in the hospital. And then when she wakes up at the hospital, Kirsty is there. So that's how she recruits her into the Cenobites. And again, how is Kirsty meeting all these people? How is she finding out about them?
Yeah. I mean, I guess Kirsty's got some kind of a sixth sense, or maybe she's getting notes from Harry D'Amour from the Reef. We don't know yet. I don't know if we don't really ever find this out.
Then we got the harrowing of the next harrower, the harrowing of Alexander Price, Halifax, Nova Scotia, 1987. He's a kid, right?
Yeah, right at the same time as Hellraiser, the movie came out. So presumably this is happening like concurrently with the events of Kirsty's stuff.
Yes. So apparently this kid, Alex, was playing in the woods with one of the lament configurations, and his brother David, I think. Is it David? Yeah. David, yes, is taken by a Deep Throat, the female Cenobite. And then she says, well, your brother will keep his skin as long as you do what we tell you to do, and as long as you keep bringing us souls.
Yeah.
And you should become a facilitator for people to get these things. And it's like, do you agree? And he's like, okay, well, don't hurt my brother. And she like, okay. And if you forget, here's something to make you remember. And she gives him a gash in his face. So his face is scarred. And so he's the guy who becomes a puzzle guardian. And he is the guy who is giving lament configurations to people, including his other harrower friends, right?
Yeah.
We see that he gave a toy to like his teacher in school. And then he was the one who left the snow globe with the tree in the confessional to the priest.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who's selling the ballerina music box to the collector. So for a while he was a puzzle guardian, and he was, every time he killed someone or gave them a lament configuration, he would be able to see his brother. And every time he sees his brother, it's not good.
Yeah.
It is not good.
And after a while, his brother's like, you know what? I'm dead already. Why do you keep doing this? You're just hurting people.
Yeah.
And I'm dead already. Just let me go.
Yeah, if you love me, let me die.
Yeah.
And so finally he has the box, the actual lament configuration box. He is given that by the Cenobite, and he is told to give this to a couple of kids. And the kids are like, hey, that's a cool toy you got there. And then he just remembers what happened to him and his brother when they were kids. And he's like, no, I'm not giving this to you. And then that's when he broke the contract with the Cenobite, and his brother then is torn apart in hell.
Yeah.
And then,
They don't pull any punches in making the Cenobites bad guys in here, right? Like, oh, you wouldn't give the puzzle box to a bunch of kids? Uh-oh. And and that doesn't that to me that doesn't really jive with the Cenobites that we knew in Hellraiser 1 and 2.
I agree. This is a completely new thing. Yeah, this is a new thing. But again, he's at the middle of the woods saying, "Sorry, David. I decided to come here to the woods where we played and played with the box, and you were taken. I'm sorry. I'll get revenge." And then Kirsty shows up in the middle of the woods, say, "Yeah, let's start now."
Yeah.
I'm like, again, woman, where are you coming from? How are you finding these people?
Yeah.
Like you said, it must be some sort of sixth sense she's got or something.
Yeah.
She can sniff it out, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so cuts back to Edgar. He's finishing his lecture in the present.
And then a guy...
Samuel shows up, yeah.
Yeah, he shows up in a line, right, at his book signing.
Yeah. And he says, hands him the box, right?
Yeah. I was told to tell you. The dream sea is real. The box is the property of a man who stood in that sea, waist high in the waves, and pissed into the water. I guess that's Pinhead. He did that?
Yeah. I don't know how to take this one.
Yeah.
I understand how that's supposed to make us feel. Like, Pinhead went into quiddity and he pissed into the dream sea. It's okay. Sure. Why not? But then he says, ask your wife to be. Ask Kirsty if she knows the story, just not how it ends. And he's like, wait, come back. How do you know Kirsty? And he disappears. So Edgar got the box. He signed the book for Samuel, and he's going back to the airport after the book signing.
Yep. If he could just leave it in his suitcase and not mess with it, but no.
Yeah, and he's in the taxi cab, and he picks up the box, and he touches the box, click, and of course, Pinhead shows up in the seat, and a chain immediately comes out of the box right into the cab driver's head, and this taxi is skewered by chains and hanging off a bridge.
Yeah, lifted way up in the air. It's crazy. Yeah, and that's kind of the cliffhanger for ending for the issue 3.
Yeah. I wonder if Zine is one of those guys who appears on the first Harrowing.
Oh yeah, maybe so. The one of the maybe
friend. Yeah.
The one of the carousel ones.
Yeah, I wonder if that was Zine, because it kind of looks like him at the end.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's issue 3, right?
Yeah. So then we're on to issue 4, and this is part 4 of Pursuit of the Flesh, and the last issue of Pursuit of the Flesh, right? And because issue 5 is going to start a new part. This opens up with ambulances and police and stuff, and apparently, I don't know how they got this car. It was like hanging off the bridge by a bunch of chains. How did they get Edgar out of the car?
Yeah, it's fine. Maybe he fell off the car.
Oh, they even in the top panel they even show the car is like, oh, there's a fire truck with a ladder going up to it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's crazy.
I guess that would be a really weird day for the cops, huh?
Yeah, they're like, they're not wondering how this happened. Where are these chains even connected to?
Good point. Yeah, it's a little dodgy, but sure, why not? A guy is underneath the bridge, right? So what happens is we're seeing that box fell off the bridge and is indented into the floor, and this guy and the box is kind of like half stuck in the star, solving position.
Right, because he barely opened it. He barely got it started opening. One thing I wanted to mention on this one too is that we have a new artist now. It's no longer Leonardo Manco, and now it's Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, Stephen Thompson. Yeah. With special thanks to Rob Humphreys at Seraphim Films. It looks like Rob Humphreys was still directly connected to some of this.
Yeah.
Adaptation, I guess.
This was near the end of Rob Humphreys' time at working with Clive Barker.
Okay. Yeah, so this guy grabs the box from underneath the bridge and runs into the underground, jumps over a subway train, and goes into a hole in the wall. So there's like a homeless encampment underneath the city.
Yeah, and this king who sits on a throne made out of junk.
They're like they're almost like I don't want to say Morlocks, but they're like this gang of people who live with their own little society or their own little tribe underneath the sewer. And the king is Atticus's dad, right? Atticus is the guy who found the box, and
and he's like, whatever, just don't mess with it, get rid of it, get it out of here. And like the kid just can't help; he just keeps messing with it anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, so he says, "I found something, Papa." He gives it to the king, who's a guy with a crown made out of junk and a big necklace made out of junk, and cuts to Kirsty looking at the corpse of Edgar.
Yeah, so I didn't know he was dead at first because they show an ambulance. He's lying there by an ambulance, but apparently he got killed. Yeah, he got killed along with the cab driver, and the story jumps really, really fast. So it does. One page, she's looking at his body, identifying it, putting the ring in her finger that he was proposing to her. Next, it's the harrowers on top of a building discussing what to do next. Yeah, and they're like, man, Kirsty, why can't you grieve? Why can't you just be human? She's like, well, our enemies aren't human. Right. I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, basically that's... And now they're saying that obviously was a Cenobite attack because the car was full of chains. Yeah. They're like, well, we didn't find the box at the scene, so we got to figure out what happened. So she goes back to the bridge. She's walking around. She looks to the floor and sees an indentation of a cube that was indented on the floor, and she realizes that must have been the box, I guess. Sherlock Holmes. Hey, your cell phone is going off a lot. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, can you make it? Yeah, I'll mute it. Sorry about that. Yeah, so she goes into the same door as Atticus ran with the box, and she goes to see what happens, and it seems like everybody always knows what these boxes are, that they're items of power, but you never know how they know that. Yeah. So Atticus is asking... king of the junk, I guess, without knowing about the Cenobites. I don't know. Yeah. But the dad is telling the kid, like, I've been living underground. I know the difference between the dark and the darkness, and this is a thing of great power, but, take it away from here. And he throws it into the sewer. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, so they find out somebody's looking for it, and well, then we cut again to the mortuary, and they were supposed to find out. So Kirsty was supposed to find the box, and these guys were supposed to figure out who gave Edgar the box. Yes. And so they have a way to do it, and they're like, well, Kirsty's not going to like this. We're desecrating the body, but she's not here, so we're going to do it anyway. And so they have this horrible mask that jams into the eyes of the victim, and then somebody else wears another mask that shows you what they saw. They go into the mortuary where Edgar is, and they tell him, hey, one is dressed as a doctor, the other's dressed as a priest, because he's a priest. And they say, the cotton woman wants us to bless the body, and, and the guy in the mortuary is eating a sandwich, as they do. Yeah. And he's like, oh, yeah, go ahead. So they go in there, they do what you said, and they manage to see the last things that Edgar saw, which is the conference signing the book to Samuel Hess, and Samuel giving him the box, and then flashes of Pinhead appearing, and that's it. So it's like, well, we know who gave him the box. Let's go hunting. Yeah. Then, of course, we cut back to another kind of jarring cut as all this is happening. Kirsty is going through the tunnels. She's trying to find where the homeless people encampment is. Meanwhile, Atticus grabbed the box from the sewer. Yeah. And apparently touched it in a way that fixed it, that kind of solved the star configuration, right? And he's like, so damn you, no. Yeah, so he couldn't leave it alone. He had to pick it up and mess with it. So all of these guys around his dad and all of these other people, a bunch of other people around him all get sliced up. Yeah, and then the chains that appear from the box kind of are spread out in front of the tunnel where they live, next to the train tunnel. And there's a train coming, and the train goes through the chains, and the chains are supernatural, so they don't break. So it's kind of like a ghost ship kind of thing, right? Where the chains just cut through the entire train and everybody inside it.
and cut him open like a can of sardines.
Okay, I didn't. Yeah, I get it now. Now I'm seeing this. I didn't understand what was happening with the subway train, but now I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So Kirsty walks into this carnage. She tries to run after Atticus, running away with the box, and says, "Wait, kid, come back. That box belongs to me." And then, of course, she turns a corner and she gets to a part of the sewer where Atticus is hanging with chains, and there's the Hell Priest waiting for Kirsty. And they go like, you.
Yeah. And the box is lying in the sewer right in between them.
Yep. And he's like, hey, it's been a while since I've seen you. How I missed you. I know about your obsession, about how much you want revenge, but also I know what's deep in your heart, the question of who am I without the box? So he's like trying to gaslight her into thinking that you're a part of this forever and there's no way you can ever leave this.
Yeah. Right. Because he's trying to,
what are you looking for?
Set up what's going to happen in the next parts.
Yeah, he's like, are you looking for me or for the way back to hell? And she says, next time I see you, I'll kill you. And he says, then I will embrace you for the killer you've become.
Yeah,
I've got plans for you. And he hands her the box and he disappears and she's left behind with Atticus.
So is this the panel you were talking about of him handing her the box with that, where the box looked like that DVD box set?
No, there's one where it really shows. It's actually like they copied it straight out of the image of the Blu-ray box.
Oh, okay.
It's not in this one. It's
later on.
It's later on when he says hell is a choice. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she tells Atticus that it's safe, and Atticus is like, he killed my father. I got to go take care of my people, and I got to go fix all the stuff that happened. And she leaves the subway and she goes to a diner. We don't really see the repercussions of an entire subway train getting cut into slices.
Yeah.
But okay. But she goes to a diner and then she gets a message, a text message. And the text message is she sees the harrowers. They've been taken by someone. They've been gagged and tied up.
Yeah. And they've got signs on them that says bring the box.
Right. So I guess Samuel did this, right? Probably.
Yeah, because they're all leaning up against a tractor in the picture.
Yeah, and the next arc of stories is going to be called Requiem.
Yeah, and that's what
follows.
We'll do. We'll do that one on the next time we come back to these. Because I think it's kind of nice to follow the arcs if we can.
Yeah, these first issues were pretty dense. Even though they jump around a bit, but they were still pretty dense. I mean, in the next few issues, the story does tend to waste a few pages with like giant splashes here and there and stuff, which I wish that they would have explained a little more about what was going on. But that was one of the things that I felt about the Nightbreed comics and the Hellraiser comics at Boom Studios. And maybe also a little bit of the Next Testament, is that I wish that the story had more time to develop, and I wish that they had kept it going longer.
Yeah.
That's
a problem with all comics, though, is that they always write knowing that they don't know when they're going to get canceled. And so they always have to have a way to wrap it up quickly.
Right. And I think the direction of the story at some points is a little confusing. And like the backstory of all the harrowers being bookended by Edgar talking about the story tree.
Yeah.
I don't think that really worked very well, to be honest.
Yeah. They're neat little hints that they drop and little Easter eggs for hardcore Clive Barker fans to go, oh, the story tree, that's from Everville. And the Dream Sea, that's from, the Great and Secret Show in Everville. And then later on, you'll see that there are the Seer kind show up in the Hellraiser in this Hellraiser series.
Yes, that was cool.
Yeah,
and Harry the Moor is going to show up, and
so that's all really cool. But the issue that the issue that I had, and we haven't run into that yet. But the issue that I had with this series is that it changes writers, and with the change of writers, they would the story, they would drop drop certain aspects of the story that were trying to be developed by the previous writers. And they're like, well, that's not what I want to focus on. I want to go focus on this.
Right. And then we end up with issues near the end where Leviathan is dressed like a milkman for some reason.
Yeah.
Gets a little confusing.
Yeah.
But this opening is pretty interesting. I mean, I feel like it could have been directed in the comic a little differently. I feel like issue number 4, having already a different artist, I was already kind of feeling like, oh no, they're already changing artists.
Yeah, but then the Hellraiser Epic comics changed artists all the time.
Right, but they were more of an anthology kind of thing. You usually had like 4 stories per issue or something.
Yeah.
So each story had its own team that would have, writing and making the art for it. So,
or like, I guess you could compare it to the Sandman comics, right? Because didn't they change the artist sometimes?
Not that much. Yeah. I wasn't really into that Sandman that much, but I don't think it changed it all that often, at least not at the beginning. It was always Neil Gaiman and Dave McKean, right?
Well, Dave McKean was the cover artist. I don't think he did the interior.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not huge on the Sandman or Vertigo. But yeah, I mean, as long as the writer stays the same, I guess, then you get to see the story develop. The problem is like when not just the artists are switching, but also the writers. And then it starts becoming like, if there is an underlying story that someone was trying to develop and then it loses focus, then you just kind of become lost and the story, starts losing its way.
And I wonder
but for the beginning, I appreciated them wanting to bring back the Hairwares.
And I wonder if there's a story behind that, right? I mean, why did the writers change around? I mean, they were all consulting with Clive Barker, and he was helping them come up with the stories and all of that. But still, why did they change the main writers and stuff? Was there were they getting notes from Boom Studios? Also, I don't know the answer to that either. And then later on, they got a good 20 issues of this main series. And then later on, they're like, okay, we're going to start paring this down and you're going to make 4 issues and then you're going to start the numbers over again. But
it was exciting to see the Hellraiser comics come back. I mean, it was exciting because Clive Barker was making new Cenobites. He was designing some stuff like Jite and Zine.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. I think the other Cenobite that had been created by him probably would have been, you remember when there was a documentary that was in the works and Clive had created a Cenobite to show up in that documentary as well?
Yeah, with that kind of samurai-looking armor.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this was an exciting time.
Yeah.
Did Boom Studios put out Hellraiser before they put out Nightbreed, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This came out way before. I think the Nightbreed came out pretty far into the run of this one. 2014
or 15 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is 2011, right? It wasn't until 2012 that they screened the Cabal Cut even. So at this time...
That's true.
They were still like putting together the Cabal Cut.
Yeah. So they had found it in 2009.
Yeah. So there wasn't even a hint that Morgan Creek was going to do anything with Nightbreed yet.
But Hellraiser's always been a good property, and
it's pretty
Boom
safe.
Studios put their money where their mouth was and actually, started this series. And it went on for quite a while, right? At least 20 issues consecutively, and then a few more things that they put out.
Yeah, and they were part of this series, but they just changed the numbering around.
Yeah, to the point where they even have Hellraiser Annual.
Yeah. And that got a little confusing as far as like trying to figure out where they fit into the series. One thing that never gets talked about anymore is the HBO TV series that was supposed to happen. I think that's pretty much dead, right? I mean, as far as we know, HBO or HBO Max is now called Max because of a buyout. I think probably in that transition, we probably lost the Hellraiser TV series.
Right, maybe. No. These things are projects that certain executives are interested in, and then once those executives leave, then the other ones have their own interests, and they're like, I don't want to touch anything that was from the guy before me. Yeah. So there's always stuff like that.
Nobody ever talks about it anymore. I think it's probably gone. And there was so much talk about the Hulu Hellraiser movie that actually did come out, that people that all the talk about the HBO one kind of waned because they weren't giving us anything. You know, we never saw any, not any photos, not any cast announcements, nothing, you know, and then all the news about it just dried up and it's gone.
Well, nothing's ever really gone, so maybe at some point, if the stars align again, maybe we'll start hearing more stuff about that HBO thing.
Yeah, maybe they'll sell it to somebody else.
Who knows?
If they don't want to do it.
In regards to the comics, I like this opening. I like the way that they bring back the Harrowers. I like that. Looks like the Harrowers have always been important for Clive since he created them back in the 90s. To have a counterpoint to the Cenobites, right?
And
to have
this
something
is
that
a new, fresh take on the Harrowers, which was really neat. I like that.
Yeah.
They're victims they're victims of the Cenobites that kind of get together and they figured out a way to go around smashing these configurations.
Yes, and killing Cenobites too.
Yeah.
So that's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, the Harrowers of the old series went into hell and rescued people. Right, that's a little more fantastical than the ones we're getting in this series. Yeah,
that was a little more cinematic, right? This one is like they go into a house, they found an item, and they just exercise it, and that's it. Sometimes they have to battle with the Cenobite that appears, but they got apparently Harry the Moor is giving them research material that they know how to destroy these things.
Yeah, I think that letter that she had was old, right? I think that's like that. She got that a long time ago, and that's the way that they make these things vulnerable to smash them and kill the Cenobites.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading more because I kind of forgot a lot about these back then when I was buying these. Some of these comics you can read them in like 5 minutes. They didn't have a lot of stuff to read. And that's one of the things I think about modern comics that is something that I don't like is how modern comics, you buy one and you can read in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
it's like, I'm
the
going
old
to wait a
comics,
month to read the next one.
And thick with story and panels and stuff. And sometimes you could have a whole story self-contained in 24 pages.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's like, no, you're just going to read a bit of the story and the next month you read another bit of the story.
Yeah. And when these were coming out, I would start over again and read issue 1 all the way up till the new one. Every time a new one would come out, because I forgot. Because it's like you only read like 10 pages, and then you're waiting a whole month until the next one comes out.
I like how they make Pinhead become so weary and at the same time conniving in terms of planning things out and working behind the scenes through other intermediate agents. Just like in the Scarlet Gospels, where he's also, I guess Clive did feel like it was time for the Hell Priest to like get retired in all of the media that he wrote, right?
Right.
In the comic books, in the movies, and also in the books.
Yeah, and in radically different ways, but totally.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll continue on this series. We're not going to do like one right after the other. We'll kind of cycle through all the different stuff that we do. So coming next, we'll also continue on with Z, A to Z commentaries and Z for Zombie with Diary of the Dead, and then Jericho Squad 77. We didn't get as far as I was thinking because I don't know. I just you never know how long these things are going to go, and that sort of hearing trial sort of stuff that took longer than I was expecting. So part 21 of that is coming up soon. As soon as we can put all of our people together.
Our peeps.
Yeah.
All right.
More classic commentaries and more of these. More Boom Studios Hellraiser comic discussion. And
join our Clive Barker podcast listeners group, the BarkerCast listeners group on Facebook. Join that for any discussions and any like feedback that you want to give us, so you can talk to us there.
Yeah.
And we also have our store, right?
Yeah. Yep. Check it out. We've got a TeePublic store.
Yeah, it's on our blog. Buy a T-shirt. Help us out.
We should probably update the Jericho Squad T-shirt to put Richard on there.
Yes, we should.
Yeah. All right, and this podcast having no beginning will have no end. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed. You can find the Clive Barker podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Twitter, or our new Discord server. Watch for our annual Kickstarter fundraisers to get some cool stuff, and you can buy t-shirts on our TeePublic store. Go to tpublic.com and search for BarkerCast. Opening music by Ray Norrish, end credit music by Matt Furness.
Thanks for listening.